Thank you everyone for coming to join our Teach in Regional Rural Australia webinar. I do apologize for the video for my internet. We're off to a rough start, but I'm sure as teachers we are all very aware of the technical difficulties that can happen in moving through that. Just as a quick introduction, my name is Victoria. I'm one of the Global Opportunities Consultants here on the North American team. I am based in Toronto. I'm an Ontario teacher as well, and I was teaching in Melbourne for the year of 2023, came home and was fortunate enough to land in this role. So I now full-time get to help other educators who are interested in moving from North America over to Australia. I did want to also, of course, address I do have my Toronto Maple Leafs gear on. I really apologize if we have any big hockey fans. This webinar was scheduled well before the playoffs schedule came out, so I do apologize and appreciate you all spending your time here with me. I will try and keep it brief and give you an overview about what's happening here. We do also have my colleague Olivia, who's in the chat as well. She is our Canadian recruitment manager for everything on the North American side here. We're going to be going into, to jump into this one. We're going to be going over quite a bit in the next 40 minutes or so. If you do have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I do have some time at the end for questions where I'll try to get to them. If things are super specific about your specific qualification, you want to live in one specific area, the best thing for us is going to be to set up a call outside of this. I'll be trying to give a high-level overview of everything tonight, but if you do have specific questions about your qualification or what you want to do, we can absolutely set up a time with either myself or with Olivia, or get you directed to the teams in Australia to talk about what you're looking for. So just a few things about what we'll be covering is the introduction to ANZ UK, what we are, what we do, the different visa options, why you should go and consider working in the regional or rural settings, financial considerations. We'll also be going over the location options and the types of work available, some hot jobs, how the process works, and then, like I said, we'll leave some time at the end for questions. All right. So for those who are new to ANZ UK, thank you for joining us. We have been around for over 20 years now, helping educators teach and travel in a new geography. So we currently help teachers work in Australia, but also in New Zealand, as well as the UK. We have specialized recruitment teams based around the globe with offices in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and Europe, and we are here to offer you 360-degree support throughout your journey. We are going to be talking specifically about teaching in the country, teaching in rural regional areas. But if that is not for you, if you are interested in teaching in the major metros, we do also have opportunities in most of the major metros throughout Australia, whether that be Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, Brisbane, and I can absolutely send you resources for that. If that's something you're interested in, just please let me know. But tonight, we'll be talking about teaching in the country, why teach in the country, personal growth. It's a great opportunity to step out of your comfort zone, develop some cultural awareness. A lot of these smaller schools have quite close-knit communities, often a lot of Indigenous communities as well. You can experience a different pace of living than city living. It can also be phenomenal for career development. So there can be a great financial benefit. We'll go into some of this in our later slides. Professionally and personally rewarding. And if you are a newer teacher, great way to get a reference from a principal for future employment, especially with these smaller knit communities. And then finally, of course, the life experience. Explore a new part of Australia, become part of a community, make friends, really great things to do when you are living in a smaller community. All right, so this webinar is geared towards North American educators. If you have completed your education in Canada, there is a very good chance that your qualifications will transfer over to Australia. If you've completed your education elsewhere, you do need to check the state-specific requirements to see if your qualifications will be accepted in Australia. At the high level, you need to have completed a minimum of 4 years of full-time or equivalent higher education study. So it can be a 3-year bachelor's and then a B.Ed on top of that, or a concurrent program that needs to include an approved initial primary or secondary training. And within that training, there needs to be a minimum of at least 45 days of supervised practicum in a primary or secondary placement. So Julie, you'd have to check the state specific. It needs to be a 1-year qualification though in education specifically. All right, let's jump into the visas. So if you want to be able to teach in Australia, there's really two main things you need. The one being your teaching registration that varies state to state. The other is work rights and a working visa. So we're going to be talking about the working holiday visa, the temporary skill shortage visa, and the skilled worker visa. All right, the working holiday visa. If you are a young person, so that's under 35 for Canadians, under 30 for US, then you may be eligible for the working holiday visa. This is a fantastic visa to get to go to Australia, to experience it, see how you like it before maybe making a decision for a longer term stay, or potentially this is all you want to do to get that bit of adventure. It's what I did, it's what Olivia did. It's a really easy visa to get as long as you hold the appropriate passport and meet the age restriction. The cost is $650 Australian. The only other requirement is that you have proof of 5,000 Australian for living and travel expenses. The biggest thing with this visa is there is a 6-month work limitation, which can come up when looking for contract roles. So with this 6-month work limitation, you can only work at one location for 6 months. So if you're looking to take a contract in the country, it's just something we need to consider beforehand. There are obviously ways that we can talk about this and help you work through it, but just something to be mindful of. All right. The 482 temporary skill shortage visa is going to be an option for all ages. This is a very high in demand visa that lots of people are interested in. It is quite a hard visa to come by. So this one, like we said, open to all ages. You just need to have 1 year of teaching experience post qualification. This visa can last for 2 to 4 years depending on the contract that you are offered, and you are tied to the employer that offers you that contract. There is potential for this to be converted to permanent residency if you're under 45 or if you are living in a designated area. There are some in the state of Victoria, most of the Northern Territory is this area. So if you are over 45 and looking to stay long term, you would need to live in one of these specific DAMA areas. Now, this is a highly sought after visa. So we typically only see it for certain subjects and it is hard to come by. So secondary sciences, maths, English, or special education needs are specifically what we tend to see the most of in these. You wouldn't see a 1-year contract, Claudia, just because the employer is putting in the money to bring a teacher over. So it's going to be a minimum of 2 years. We typically see that for primary school, and typically for secondary school, you're looking at a minimum 4-year contract. And finally, the skilled worker visa. There's a few different options within the skilled worker visa. This is going to be the best visa option if you are looking to move to Australia long term. It grants a person full working rights. They can choose where they can work. If you have a spouse or if you have dependents, you're able to bring them over on this visa. There are pathways to permanent residency and citizenship. There are no limitations on your work. So you can work depending on if it's state specific anywhere in the state. But this is a great option. If this is going to be the best option for you, please let us know. I can send you, we do have additional webinars about this, but the best thing to do would be to talk to a migration agent. We do work with one at Visa Go, so I can absolutely send you more information if this is the visa pathway you'd be interested in taking. All right, so like I said, it's going to be person specific about how you get over there. If you are qualified for your teaching license, if you're qualified for early childhood, what visa you would go on. There's so many personal questions that go with that. We're happy to have these discussions outside of it, but those are the main two things that need to be worked out before you can go and teach in rural settings in Australia. So, biggest question, why teach in a rural setting? Oh, great question. Thank you. There is an age limitation for the skilled worker visa, and it's 45. All right, so why go teach rural? The cost of living is a huge one that you can't ignore. So you're getting the same salary, but it's going to be a much more affordable cost of living than you would see living in a major metro. So a room in a share house in Bondi Beach or St. Kilda can be running you 500 to 600 Australian per week, whereas a 3 to 4 bedroom house in a regional city is going to cost you a little bit less, 450 to 500 Australian per week. A 2 to 3 bedroom in a rural town, you're looking at cutting that in half entirely, so 200 to 350 Australian per week. Now, some incentives. This is just going to be, again, a general broad list of incentives. The incentives are going to range between, there's often government incentives to help bring in international teachers. There's also going to be incentives by the schools looking to bring them in. So this is just a list of what some schools and areas can offer, but it's going to be case specific. So some places offer furnished accommodation, so you don't have to worry about finding accommodation or bringing in any of your furniture from home. There's also could be rental subsidies, financial incentive, relocation costs covered. We've seen bonus and incentive payments up to 50,000 Australian in certain areas, and visa sponsorship, like we talked about with that 482 skill shortage visa. Accommodation. So, of course, finding accommodation in these rural towns is going to be different than finding accommodation in a major metro, but that's something that your Australian consultant and your administrative team or your resources at the school can help with. So some schools might have accommodation for you to live in, whether that's a house or a unit. It could be a shared house with other teachers who are also on contract at that school. In addition, temporary accommodation can sometimes be awarded for you to have somewhere to live when you land, so you can get settled, find your own spot. Some regions have also employed what they call local connectors, and these who are responsible for facilitating and delivering the welcome experience, which is essentially a free service to support these essential workers and teachers and their families who are considering moving over to the regions. So this would be a great person to help you when you land, to help get you settled, to show you where things are, to help set you up with accommodation and everything you need. Like we said, one of the best things about these communities is that they are smaller, more close-knit, welcoming communities, so the people are there to help you as well and appreciate having teachers for their schools. All right, now getting around, this is going to be, no, sorry, Vicky, this is the local connectors are schools that have organized this. But again, this is going to be specific to your experience. So these are some of the incentives, but it's going to be specific depending on what type of work you're looking for, where you're ending up working, all of that. Now, getting around is something that you're going to have to consider before moving into a regional area. So public transportation that we would rely on in the major metros is not going to be as available or reliable in these regional and rural locations. Some other great ways to do it: biking, Obviously, these areas are much, much smaller, much easier to get around. It's a great option to stay active, save money, support the environment if you can live close enough to the school. And obviously, unlike Canada, you're not living somewhere with snow. So as much as there is rain in some areas and the colder months, you can get outside year round, which is a really nice treat. If you are looking to live long term in regional Australia, though, a car is going to be the best option for you. All right, to quickly go over some teaching salaries. It does vary state by state. And again, this is going to be a range. So it's going to depend on how much experience you have, what you're teaching, but this can give you an idea between being a new graduate moving over to having between 5 to 10 years of experience, how much you can be expecting to make. But like I said, it's going to vary widely depending on your personal experience. All right. So we are able to support rural opportunities through many of our states in Australia. So we're going to just quickly go through some of the different states that we have work in, what the requirements are in those states, and the types of work that we have them. So New South Wales, this is where Sydney is. Um, Getting your NESA is what you will need to be a teacher there. So it's called the New South Wales Education Standards Authority. For teaching in New South Wales, this is the only state that has to be done on arrival into New South Wales. So you'll need to get your Working with Children check. From there, you can get your NESA registration, which takes 2 to 4 weeks. We do typically say for everything that needs to be done in New South Wales, you do need to plan to arrive about 2 months before you're ready to start working to get time to have your teaching license processed. You can still interview and secure a job without your NESA, so that can be happening while you are processing. We do have support in place as well around the state registrations, and we can support teachers with their conditional accreditation. In New South Wales, we have several permanent roles in both primary and secondary. We're also seeing some early exposure into leadership roles. So if you are coming from an executive administrative role, it's absolutely something we can talk about. There are a range of cities and towns throughout New South Wales, including the large regional cities, regional towns, and even smaller country towns. We have offices in 2 of the more regional towns, Tamworth and Orange, where we are able to support educators. We host community event, and this is also a state that has some accommodation provided and relocation incentives in some areas. Queensland. Beautiful, beautiful Queensland. Queensland is run by the Queensland College of Teachers, the QCT. This can be done while you are still overseas. You can arrive and be ready to teach right away. The Queensland registration fee is $312. Annual fee is $100. This one is a bit of a slower process. You do have to still mail in documents. So if QCT is where you're looking to go, the processing times can be quite lengthy, upwards of 3, 4+ months. So our recommendation is if you are moving to Queensland to always get started sooner rather than later. There's no minimum requirement for when you can apply. So if you know you'll be going to Queensland, it's great to start on that when you can. The Northern Territory. This is a phenomenal territory if you are looking to get regional opportunities, especially if you are potentially a little bit older. Like I said, the skill shortage visa. If you're over 45, you need to live in a DAMA area to be able to get pathways to permanent residency. And most of the Northern Territory is in these DAMA areas. The Teacher Registration Board, TRB, can also be done while you are still overseas. You have to get your Working with Children check, $81. That takes about 3 to 4 months as well. and then you can get your registration, $161, and that's taking up to 10 weeks. So these are quite long processes. So you do need to be planning well ahead of time if you are looking to go. I do have a slide at the end as well with the school year calendar because it's quite different from our North American calendar, and that's important to keep in mind. In both Queensland and Northern Territory, we have permanent roles in primary and secondary, as well as some of those leadership opportunities. There are offices in the major metros here, so we do host community events, and there is sometimes accommodation provided and relocation incentives as well. All right, I believe this is our last date on this one, is registering in Victoria. So if you want to work in the state of Victoria, you're going through your VIT, the Victorian Institute of Teaching. This again, we talked about the 4 years of tertiary education, 45 days teaching placement. If you are coming from a non-English speaking background, whether that's you studied in French in Canada or coming from another country, you will need to write the academic IELTS test and meet the minimum language requirements to be able to get your teaching registration. This typically takes around 6 to 10 weeks, costs about $170, and it can only be done 3 months in, prior to your arrival into Australia with evidence of employment. So that's where we can help you as well as far as having employment, whether that's a contract signed before you have arrived or stating that we will be happy to employ you once you do arrive. All of these states as well, you can obtain mutual recognition with other states, or if you have your New Zealand teaching license. If you've taught in New Zealand or if you've taught in another Australian state, it is much easier to get a mutual recognition rather than if you're coming from overseas. Victoria is a much, much smaller state, obviously, than New South Wales, Northern Territory, and Queensland. We do have several permanent roles, including primary, secondary, and leadership. We also have temporary roles. So if you are not sure if you want a contract and are coming in and want to start as a casual relief teacher, essentially a supply teacher, we offer that in both Geelong and Melbourne. There are large cities outside of Melbourne as well as more regional and rural opportunities, and we have 3 offices across Greater Melbourne as well as 1 in Geelong. In these areas, we also have educator events as well. And like I said, it is a much smaller state, so you're closer to everything. So even if you're rural, you're not too far from a major metro. All right, our work options. So this kind of goes down to the verbiage of what we're speaking about as far as permanent or contract opportunities go. So permanent opportunities are employment opportunities directly with the school. So we would be helping organize interviews pre-arrival with these schools, or you'd be hired on by the school, whether that's on a skilled worker visa or on the 482 skills shortage sponsorship visa. Through that, you're going to have support with your team, department. You're having a relationship with the students. Consistency leads obviously to behavior improvements. You'll know where you're going every day. There is that career development where you get to implement your own systems, plan your own lessons, be a part of your school's professional development. Permanent roles are going to be anything where you are placed directly with the school. Contract roles are going to be for roles 6 months and under, where you're still going to be working under ANZUK, and we will help place you at roles at these schools for a set amount of time, whether that be 6 months, 3 months for 1 term, and so on. All right, preparation. We will also, of course, help you with CV preparation. We are looking at different standards from Canada to Australia. Yes, Jack, that's correct. So you can get a contract role on that working holiday visa, but can't land a permanent role. We'll help with CV preparation, making sure that your CV is up to Australian standards, has everything the schools there are looking for, and can also help you with that interview preparation. The greatest thing with using our teams is that we have relationships with these schools. We know what types of teachers they're looking for. We also get to know you, so we know what types of teachers you are. So we're able to help make those introductions and pair you up for a meaningful role for everyone. All right. Finally, I just wanted to talk a bit about the term date. So this is the 2025 school year now. But obviously, for many of us, we'll be looking into the 2026 school year. Very, very different layout to the North American school year calendar in that they start at the end of January and their year runs through to December. It's also broken up differently into 4 terms, and you're going to get a 2-week term in between each, a 2-week break in between each term, pardon me. This calendar is specifically for the state of Victoria. It's going to look similar state to state, but there are some differences, especially with public holidays, term breaks, things like that. But just to get a good idea of how the school year breaks down, this is what you're looking at. If you are looking to come over on a long-term opportunity, whether that is the skilled worker visa or the skills shortage visa, most of these roles are going to come available in January. A lot of that hiring happens around August, September time. So if you're looking to be coming over for the 2026 school year, then you want to make sure that things are repaired, ready to go by the fall, our fall, to be able to interview to these schools to hopefully successfully land a role before you arrive. School is not year-round, Julie, so they go their school year ends December 19th this year. Then they have a 6-week break for the summer period, which will be through the end of December through most of January, and then a new school year will begin end of January. Perfect. I will include this as well, but if you want to join, this is specifically about regional opportunities in the state of Victoria. It's a Facebook group where you can chat with both the team down there as well as some other educators who are looking to go. So if you are interested in that, feel free to scan that there. I'll leave it there for another 20 seconds or so. And in saying this, I will send you an email with this recording as well and any of the resources that I've touched on, as well as some further resources for you to explore. So if you don't get this today, don't worry, you will get it in an email. From there, let's say you're like, okay, I'm interested. I want to go teach in Australia. What do I do now? Step 1 is going to be your initial contact with the Canadian office. That is myself or Olivia. If you are not living in North America, please feel free to let me know. If we have a consultant who works in your area, I'm happy to direct you to them. Initial contact with myself or Olivia will just be to take a look at your qualifications, find out a bit more about what you're looking for, make sure that we can support you in a way that's meaningful, like I said, for you and the schools that we work with. From there, yes, US would be through Canada as well. We support all of North America and a bit of South America. So if you're living in the Americas, we are going to be the office for you. After that initial contact with Olivia or myself, would be meeting with a consultant in Australia. So we have teams all throughout the country in Australia, depending on where you are looking to go, introducing you to those people, chatting about what the job opportunities are, what the prospects are looking like, and potentially starting the longer process that includes compliance, making sure that we are getting your visa, your working rights organized. We are not a visa migration agency. So if that is the skilled worker visa, that's something you'll need to do outside of us, but we can absolutely help with some information around the skill shortage visa or the working holiday visa. Compliance will also be getting your teaching license started, getting that process underway so that we can actively submit you for jobs. Then would come the interview process, connecting you directly with the schools that you can interview. Ideally, next up comes the offer stages, and finally, you're in the classroom. So we are here to help you with everything along the process. But there are some things that you'll need to do on your end to ensure that you are eligible for this process as well with the visa or your teaching license. All right, I'm going to go to questions in just one second, but I wanted to read this testimonial from a teacher who went to Northern Territory to teach. Obviously, we have a lot of people who are looking for long-term opportunities, but if you are looking for just a short-term opportunity as well, there are great short-term contract opportunities where you can go live somewhere new, experience a different part of Australia that you maybe wouldn't have otherwise. So Eva says, I have just completed 10 weeks regional placement in middle school in Darwin and couldn't recommend the experience more. I'm a primary school teacher and had never taught children before and found the experience so rewarding. The staff in the school were so supportive and welcoming. Everyone was on hand to give advice and guidance when needed. I was treated extremely well and was given accommodation and a car. I really felt like part of a team in the school I worked at. I developed a great rapport with my students and learned a lot from them, specifically about their cultures and traditions, and this was so interesting. The kids also loved learning about where I was from, asking me to speak Irish, and taking an interest in my culture. This really was a once in a lifetime experience for me, both professionally and personally. I have learned so much in the short time that I know will stand to me in the future. If anyone is considering doing a contract in the Northern Territory, I would jump at the chance. I will definitely be back. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming along and joining me. I hope this answered some of your initial questions. I will go through and take a look at some of the other questions that have come in. But like I said, if it is specific about I want to work here or is my qualification, send us an email. We'll send you some forms and we can set up one-to-one calls with you as well. Okay, worked in Melbourne. What does it look like to ensure there's the right fit for a teacher for a school? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that that was your experience. I guess the right fit is talking to you directly about what types of schools you're looking for, what your experience is. And then talking as well with, like I said, we do have direct relationships with these schools. So making sure that what you are looking for would line up well with what the school is looking for as well. Benjamin, you can absolutely schedule a one-to-one meeting. Like I said, I'll send out an email likely tomorrow, if not Friday, with how to set up a call with one of us, as well as some information that we can get from you just to save on time there. Vicky, we don't currently have any webinars on CV prep or interview prep. We are building our growth hub right now, which will hopefully have something, but our consultant in Australia is happy to chat with you about these things to go over. The proof of 5,000 would need to be cash. It's going to be something simple like a screenshot of your bank account, but it does need to be money that you have in your account, not money available per se via credit card. No problem. I'm just trying to scroll back and see. Um, Jalisa, I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. I do have a webinar specifically about living in Melbourne. So if you're interested in that, please email me back once I send out the email and I can send that webinar to you specifically. No problem. Thank you so much. I think we answered a lot of these questions as we went. Okay. Claudia, if you're looking for one-year contracts, you'd be best coming in on the skilled worker visa. There's a few of these. Some are Australia-wide, some are state-specific. But a skilled worker visa would be the only visa that allows you to take like a one-year contract because that skill shortage visa is a longer contract. The thing to note with that is it is quite an expensive and lengthy process. So if you're only looking to move over for 1 year, it may be something to consider. Chances of getting a job in special education are quite high. It's absolutely an area with need in Australia. Their special education system is quite different to ours in North America, with quite small class sizes. So there's always a need for special education teachers. So if you have the matching requirements, please email us because we'd be happy to get you chatting to our teams in Australia. There's absolutely roles in special education. Yes, there are moving incentives. It's just going to depend. So, like I said, there are some government offered incentives. Those usually get released around June. We don't know what we'll be expecting for the upcoming year just yet. And sometimes the schools offer incentives. So there definitely are. It just depends on what the government has coming up, as well as what school you end up working for. Anyone else with questions? All right. I will leave it there then for tonight. Thank you again so much to everyone who joined us. I will send out an email with a bunch of resources. Please take a look at those. We're happy, like I said, to set up a call. We'll send you our first contact form. If you can please send that back to us with your resume. Really appreciate it. And we are so excited to help you on this journey to Australia. All the best. Have a good night. And go Leafs go. I hope they're winning. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.